Just give me a sense of the real impact at ground level of the removal of Ukraine from that export market.
Yeah, so Ukraine's is a major exporter. They account for about 6% of what's traded in the world. That doesn't sound like a lot, but in a world that needs grain, 6% is quite sizable. And unfortunately, about 20 million tons of grain that was harvested last year has not been able to move out of the ports. They've been exporting maybe 1 to 2 million tons a month, but this is a country that normally would export around 5 to 6 to even 7 million tons a month. And so that grain is building up within Ukraine, and that means lower prices for Ukraine farmers. So the real concern is not only is it affecting last year's crop, it's also affecting prices for this year's crop and sending strong disincentives to plant for next year's crop. So freeing up those ports can mean a lot for the Ukraine farmer, and to get those supplies out onto the world can help bring down prices. And we've seen very, very high, record high prices over the last 6 months.
And Joseph, obviously there's always going to be the risk that something could disrupt those supplies, even with this agreement that has been reached between Russia and the Ukraine. But I also wanted to talk about what's been happening elsewhere in the United States and everywhere else where we have seen these record heat conditions, drought conditions pervading as well. Do you think that the US, because there's been a lot of extra planning that has been going on when it does come to wheat, they're going to be able to backfill should we see any further disruptions?
Yeah, no, you put your finger on a great point. That is, stocks have been very tight, even prior to the war starting in Ukraine. And that's meant a lot of countries have tried to step up and produce more. But, agriculture is very subject to the weather. And we've had very dry weather here in the U.S., in the southern plains, that's affected the wheat crop. We are currently under a heat wave in the Midwest, which potentially could affect the corn crop. We have dry weather in Europe, which has affected the spring planted crops. So there's a lot of concern. And I think that one way or the other, that we're not going to see a big rebound in world supplies, at least for another 12 months or so. So I think that this tightness is going to be around, which means that price volatility will also continue to be very, very high.